rumors that appeal. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. Good night from the Dusty Wheel. Like we say around here, smash to black.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. Good night from the Dusty Wheel. Like we say around here, smash to black. Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is your live call-in talk show all about the Wheel of Time. And tonight, we are back a third week in a row doing a deep dive. But before we jump into that, we have a few things to discuss. We have some new news, and let me show you what we have coming up on the Dusty Wheel in the next few weeks. So in March, we're going to have Danny and Brett back from the Wheel Weaves podcast. They're up to Winter's Heart, so we're going to do new reader reactions, and I'm looking forward to that. But we can't really, get away from doing deep dives. We're going to continue that. So we're then talking about what is the wolf dream. Is it like dreaming? Is it like dream walking? And as you can see, those are mentioned as two separate things there. So I think that'll be a lot of fun, and I think you'll see some Wolf Brothers on that stream. And another topic that we've been discussing at our most recent Innkeeper social that we had, that we have to have this topic at the Dusty Wheel, is this one. It's every Wheel of Time fan theory about to live he must die ? And there's a lot to be said about this this fan theory, and I'm looking forward to that one a lot. So that's what we have coming up here in the next few weeks. But before we dive into what we have for the rest of the show, let me introduce my wonderful guests for tonight. First of all, Rebecca from Reading the Pattern, and Kevin Angus of Tour of Time Infamy. Hey guys, welcome to the show. All right, no, thanks. Yeah, no, it's great that we have you here tonight, and we are going to deep dive. We're going to look at the Black Ajah in a little bit, but before we do that, I'm going to put up some new news that we have, and but before we do that, I'm also going to show this teaser that came on. Can you guys hear me okay there? Yeah. But we this teaser that we had about What Idol. So let me play that, and oh, I think we have some technical difficulties. Let me work on that and fix that in 1 second. All right, yeah, nothing like technical difficulties on the Dusty Wheel. Let me check right here. So Kevin and Rebecca can hear me fine, but I don't think anyone else can hear them. Is that correct, guys? Okay. All right. All right. Let me just fix that in 1 second. Yeah. All right. Can you? Let me check right here. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try to keep talking as I try to fix this. But Kevin is saying some really funny stuff. That I can tell you. And let me just see. And yep. Right there. Oh, yes. I think this is what it is.
You up as well, maybe.
Okay. Maybe I think this
All right.
should have fixed it. Kevin, can you talk about your favorite part of What Idol? I mean, this is going to be your first time doing hopefully something on What Idol, right?
Yeah, this is my first time, and I'm really excited to see what the whole show is actually functioning. Like, I've watched a few of the parodies, but I haven't actually watched the show because I want to go in completely fresh and not knowing what to expect. That's what everyone's been saying too. So I'm very excited.
All right. People are saying they can hear Kevin now. Rebecca, do you mind? Do you mind talking about Wheel of Time Idol?
Sure. Yeah, no. So I was just telling Kevin that What Idol is the best. You have to have the full experience of being here live in chat to experience it. It's awesome. I also have a parody that I'll be working on for this year too. So no beard this time, but wig.
Yeah. All right. Let me actually try to show our teaser and see if that plays as well as I wanted it to. And yeah.
Hi everyone, it's John from What Up?
Hey, it's Matt from the Dusty Wheel.
And I'm Lauren from Unraveling the Pattern, and it's time for What Idol 2023.
Hey, welcome back to year 3 of Wheel of Time Idol, or like we used to call it, the Wheel of Time Song Parody Challenge. We can't wait to see what you've all been coming up with since the last time we parted ways here.
Now, we know that right now there's not much Wheel of Time news or rumors happening. We figured it would be the perfect time for What Idol 2023. And since the fandom has grown exponentially in the last year, we're kind of hoping the submissions do too, because there is a ton of really talented people in our fandom, and we can't wait to see what you come up with.
It's a parody of any variety. Make us laugh, make us cry, or make John get a new tattoo. We don't care. Honestly,
I'll do it. I will.
Just have fun with us. That's the only rule. Have a lot of fun.
And we've built a new website to make this whole process easier. We've updated some of the rules. You can go to whatidol.com to see updated rules to submit your parodies. We can't wait to see what you guys come up with.
And you're like, yes, just have fun.
Just have fun.
You guys, whatever you do, just make sure you have a good time, okay? Doesn't matter.
All right. So let's get that out of the way. And all right. So Cam and Rebecca, can you guys still hear me? I feel like
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can
People are
hear you.
invisible again.
Yeah, we
Oh.
seem invisible. But...
Okay. All right. Let me fix that. That should be easily fixable. There you guys are. Okay. All right. Awesome. So yeah, Wild Idol 2023. So April 3rd is the submission deadline. And so it's about 4 weeks, I think, from now. And so it's, plenty of time, I think,
It's too soon. It's too soon.
I know, but
I
it
should be more prepared, but I'm not.
I think I'm just excited to see what people come up with. That's the one of the best parts of the experience in the fandom is that seeing the first 30 seconds of a video and then obviously it gets cut after that, but it's just so it's awesome to see a lot of just amazing talent. Yeah.
That's the main takeaway I had when someone shared the link with me of the playlist of just the videos. I was like, wow, where are all these people hiding? Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, no. But did you guys see, we finally had some news, right? But not season 2 news. We had we had season 3 news. So this is, What series, of course, had a scoop, and they showed us some really cool pictures of construction from the Czech in the Czech Republic, and season 3 set, and what seems to be the Two Rivers, Emmons Field. So how excited were you guys to see that? Rebecca, maybe start with you.
I mean, I love it. I love what series. They're always just like keeping us fed during these times. But I mean, I am glad to see it. I feel like it's just sort of like confirmation. Like we knew before from things Rafe had said that season 3 would cover a lot of the Shadow Rising. So I was definitely expecting to go back to Emmons Field, or the Two Rivers, I guess, as we're calling it. So it was good confirmation of that. I think mainly it's just exciting knowing that like that's underway and like season 3 filming is going to be happening fairly imminently. But
Yeah,
definitely exciting.
yeah, no, it's super exciting, and so I pulled up some pictures. So if you remember, this is what it looked like before season 1. So this is the
Yeah.
Two Rivers before it was unfortunately, pretty badly devastated and destroyed.
Morained.
Morained. This is what it looked
Before
like.
Moraine happened. Yeah.
So as you can tell, the wine spring is not even there anymore, and it just looks pretty bad there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Walt series had some other cool pictures too, where this is what it looked like afterwards. So this is just, you can see the tree there in the middle, and that's about it. Nothing else. And there were some maybe buildings kind of that were still standing, but pretty much the rest of it was just gone. So they had some people on the ground, and this is what it looks like now. So I think we have pretty convincing footage there that this is the same location with a similar outlay, and this is the Two Rivers being rebuilt.
Yeah.
The wine spring inn right there on the right, and another view of it here from behind, and you could see it's well on its way of getting ready for season 3, and getting hopefully that arc of the Two Rivers that we get in the Shadow Rising.
Do you think that's
Kevin?
Rafe on the scaffolding?
That's Rafe, and I think with him it's Rafe.
Maybe it's Marcus.
Rafe.
He's a
and
tall
Marcus.
guy.
Yeah, Rafe and Marcus right there. Okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, you heard it here first. And then we do have a video that they share, so I'm just gonna play it. There's no audio to this, but it's basically construction crew that's working, and hard at work. So I think getting this in season 3, I think, is super exciting. It's going to be something that's I think a lot of fans were hoping that they were going to get this, and the question was, wait, but they destroyed the Two Rivers, how are we going to go back? But it's not, I guess it's not hard to build that set again, and they're going to do it.
Build that thing again.
Yeah, with thatched roofs or whatever the opposite was that they didn't want to do before.
Yeah. Maybe this time they might do thatch roofs. We don't know, right? There's a lot of times when you see in productions that things change, and production styles change. But I think seeing some of those characters back. I mean, Tam and all the people who are going to be in Emmonsfield. I think it's going to be really cool. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much all I had as far as news. It's super exciting. I wish we get some season 2 news, but the fact that I hope we're getting on this uptick of news that we will finally kind of swing into season 2 news and things like that. But I think the lull is finally coming to an end, I think.
It's hard to get a stealth drone into like a visual effects studio and just kind of like get news and leaks that way. So it's a lot easier with set building. Yeah, you can't really sneak a camera into a visual effects studio and get leaks that way as easily, I'm sure. But
yeah,
Someone's working on it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we're here to talk a deep dive, right? So let's jump into that. I think the fact that we chose this topic tonight was tempting. Bubble of evils that we've defeated. So I just put up. The show does contain spoilers, and we're doing a deep dive into the Black Ajah. So we're talking pretty much all the behind the scenes machinations, things like that. Talk about membership. We're talking about what has the Black Ajah been up to? All their mischief and murder and stuff like that. So is there a part about the Black Ajah, Kevin, that is really of interest to you? We're like, wow, that was pretty cool that they had, they did that. Anything that jumps up to you is like the first kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that, this might be like one of those things that you've pieced together from theories that you read over the years, but the idea that even using the oath rod to take oaths was kind of an idea planted by the Dark, the Black Ajah, or just Baalsman in disguise. I think that's a clever way because it was kind of the restrictions were needed on their powers, but I think that their role in setting that up and kind of handicapping them for so many years is a pretty interesting idea, because they definitely seemed a lot more competent in the past. They got a lot more done as far as physical tangible results that we see by the time of the stories. But I just think that playing the long con, they did a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree that there were always dark friends, right? And there are always dark friend channelers, but being a hidden secret society, I think that is there's something to that and how effective they were. Yeah. Rebecca, anything that you find that the Black Ajah excelled at or were exceptional?
Well, I think so. I mean, one thing that just sort of interests me, I think, the most about like the Black Ajah as a concept in the story is, I think, thematically, the idea that this organization thrives fully on secrecy and by the denial of their existence. And that if you didn't have every other Aes Sedai so committed to this idea that they don't exist, then they might not be able to exist. Like, that's what enables them to exist. And I think that's a pretty big theme in the story for their existence. And so I think that's interesting. And I think that in terms of like effectiveness, I think what they did, to me, I think that stands out the most is create this huge schism in the White Tower, which then undermined everything that the White Tower was trying to do, everything that their entire reputation in the world. So I think that that's huge. And then on a more less serious note, that my favorite little bit like that I had completely forgotten about when I was like looking up stuff for this, for tonight, there's a bit in the book about how they have like a secret gesture they can do to show that they're Black Ajah if they need to, which is this. And this bit of trivia is that this thing, when they would do it like down by their sides, but I'm just so you can see it, it was historically called the fig sign, and because it's Robert Jordan, he had to include this. This was historically used as an obscene gesture because it resembles female genitalia. So there you have it. That was my favorite bit.
Maybe upside down as well. I guess, would you do it like this then?
Right. Yeah. It would be more like this, except right. But like down at your sides. Yeah. So
right. Yeah. I mean, this is actually mentioned in the books in Lord of Chaos as one of the sisters making that sign. So yeah, you're right. They had various ways of communicating with each other. But let me start with this. The first kind of slide that I had is just the kind of companion entry, and I can read this. But let me fix one thing here, and then.
You did not use this in high school. Are you kidding me? Sorry, I'm seeing people talking about the sign. I'm like, there's no way that you did this.
Oops.
Oh, it's on me.
Yeah, sorry. let me.
Okay, they're loving it.
Too much chaos with Kevin. Yeah, sorry. Let me just fix that. And Kevin, you might show up for a second again there. But so yeah, the Black Ajah. This is from the companion, is a covert organization within the White Tower composed of sisters who gave their allegiance to the Dark One. The Black Ajah was about the same size as the Red Ajah, over 200 members. They renounced the oaths sworn on the Oath Rod and replaced them with 3 others, and we'll talk about the Black Oaths in a second. The Black Ajah had cell organization of 3s called Hearts, and most members typically knew only 2 other members plus 1 outside their heart. So that's kind of how they were structured. One other thing that I wanted to include here is this, from a kind of signing report from April 2001. That it's verbatim. The question was asked, does the Black Ajah contain all Aes Sedai who are Dark Friends? And RJ said yes. So that's interesting to me, because it means that there are no, Black Ajah, and no, secret Dark Friend Aes Sedai outside of the Black Ajah. And it's interesting that he made that distinction, because it's like, well, if you can have a secret Ajah, can't you also have like a secret, like, Dark Friend person? But I think he wanted to, make that distinction.
I mean, I think that says that like their recruiting was really good.
Yeah,
like they managed to find anyone who would potentially be interested in joining their ranks and like get them involved. And if they weren't going to join, then they were going to be. So I think that I think that's what it says. And I guess also just that, sort of Ishmael started that too, because prior to the Black Ajah existing, they were more, like, different groups and stuff, but he made it one group.
Yeah, no, I think the fact that there is a very structured way that they were able to, have this hierarchy and things like that. I think it's what made them very effective too. But I just feel like, we do know there are people who can be secretly not Black Ajah while being Black Ajah. So it's interesting that you can be not a Dark Friend and be Black Ajah to some extent. At least one
just for
person.
Political gain.
Yeah, for at least one person.
I see one person being like, "I'm getting out of here because there's spoilers coming." So we're being vague for them.
Yes.
Well, I mean, guys, this is a very dangerous show for you to be in if you don't want like full book spoilers. Like seriously,
off with you.
I would say The Gathering Storm at the very least. We'll not go out of our way to spoil the ending of the books and things like that. But I think there's one chapter and one part of The Gathering Storm that is definitely going to be something that we talk about.
You don't want this spoiled for you.
Yes.
No.
So seriously, if you haven't read The Gathering Storm, like, don't be here.
Yes. So yeah, that's kind of their structure ish. One thing that other thing that I put on there, Kevin, do you mind reading the Black Oaths here?
Sure. The 3 oaths sworn by members of the Black Ajah. 1, I shall obey all commands given by those placed above me in service to the Great Lord. 2, I shall prepare for the day of the Great Lord's return. And 3, I shall hold close the secrets of the Black Ajah unto the hour of my death.
So yeah, I think those 3.
I think of Black Ajah now. Sorry, guys.
Oops. Well, I've been doing this thing the whole time, so I guess
I tricked me.
Yes, exactly. This was your test. This was the secret meeting you came to, and now
we're a heart. This is our heart.
This is the heart, and we know one other person, and their name is YouTube. So, or so that's how we do this. But yeah, I think in terms of those 3 oaths, I didn't put up. Yeah. This is what's mentioned in the companion. but there were changes that Robert Jordan had thought of in his notes as to how to word this, and the wording is important as we find out. Especially that last
The
oath
last
there.
one, kind of
Yeah.
important.
Very
Yeah.
important.
So, and as we learn, I'm going to pull that up again, that you're going to hold close the secrets of the Black Ajah unto the hour of my death. So, well, if it comes to the hour of your death, then if you believe that to be, at least maybe, and you can get it around this, right? If you think you're going to die within that hour, but you might, and I've thought about this, and I wanted to get your thoughts. Let's say you get so badly wounded that you think you're going to die.
Yeah.
But then, like, Nynaeve comes out of nowhere and saves your life. For that 1 hour, you probably could divulge secrets. And I'm surprised Verin didn't think of this, because, again, we're talking about, Verin, anyone who's still here and doesn't want to be spoiled, Verin, does use this loophole to tell Egwene pretty much all about the Black Ajah and helps bring them down. Have you guys ever thought of, well, she could have figured out a way to save herself?
I think, to me, the way that loopholes in these oaths work is it's all about like what you believe. So I mean, I think someone who didn't have that idea that Verin had in the first place about unto the hour of your death being important, and that if they never even thought of that, they wouldn't be able to do it because it wouldn't be in their mind, right? It's all about like what you it's like tricking your own mind, I think. And I think that if Verin knew that she would be saved at the last minute, then it wouldn't work either, right? She had to fully believe, no, I'm going to die 100%. I've given myself poison that will kill me in an hour. And so it's all about that belief that you have.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's the same thing with what Verin does with the letter to Matt, and the metaphysics behind that. It always messes me up when I try to think of that, and why she gave how can she give a letter like that? Where she's giving away Dark Friend Black Ajah secrets. The fact that they're gonna invade or attack Camelin, but she did do that. So it's interesting that she how she got past that. But I think this in terms of Verin, do you guys is Verin your favorite Black Ajah sister?
I mean, there's no competition.
Yeah. It's pretty easy. I mean, who was your competition? I can't even think of one.
Not Chesmal Emery.
No, I do actually like Alviarin, but like Alviarin maybe could be like a close 2 or 3, but never one. She doesn't even come close to 1.
I think Verin wins in almost any category you put her in, and for me,
true.
Like,
yes,
so yeah,
that is very true. Let me try to see if I can actually get this poll up. It's actually not letting me do a poll right now.
I think it's because we still have our first poll up.
Oh yes, and this poll. Well, the thing is, I don't know how this poll was started, but I didn't start this poll, so there must be someone out there who's
Dark Friend.
So this was what's your what's your favorite Black Ajah complementing color? And black and red won. Black and brown was about 22%, but more than half said black and red. And I can see that. Also because most red sister, well, the most number of black sisters come from the reds. So let me actually pull that one up here.
I wanted to say one more thing about the oaths before you do.
Yeah.
So I think, and Seanchan and I said this in the comments too, or the chat, how oath number 2 is sort of like, what is that? Like, it doesn't actually like mean anything. It's sort of a throwaway. And I just fully think that Ishmael was like, well, we have to have 3 oaths because I said I have 3 and we have to match them. But like, I actually only care that you keep secrets and do what people tell you to do, like keep the hierarchy. And like, he just didn't care about anything else. So he's just like, I'll just throw something in there. Cause like, what is that? Prepare for the Great Lord. That could mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it goes back to, and I think I put this in, but Ishmael, knew what the oath rod was. It was a binder that it decreased people's ages, and it was used for criminals. So for him, a lot of the Black Ajah, even the name of it and all of that he was doing with the oaths was kind of like he was kind of just like
it's like a joke.
It's a joke, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, I'll just throw some oaths at these people, and I don't really care. Like, I just want them to obey and don't tell anybody. Like, that's all I care about. So I'll make them do that, and then I'll throw something else in there because I have to have 3, so it's equal. And
yeah, no, totally. I think, you could have so many more oaths in there that may have helped the cause better and things like that. But I think Ishmael wanted the secrecy more than anything else.
Yeah, and do what I tell you to do, right? Like if you're given an order, you have to obey.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder if maybe it could be used in a way to, if they're presented with 2 options, one is an option that would potentially hinder them long term, and one option would further them. It would be almost like a compulsion to choose the option that would force them down that path to maybe make a choice that directly benefits the dark side. So that's the only kind of loose interpretation. Otherwise, maybe he's just a big fan of the Lion King and he really likes Scar's solo and Be Prepared. So just
yeah. I mean, Ishmael has lived many ages, so that could be true. But if you look at Ajah sizes, this is from the companion. So approximate Ajah sizes at the last battle. So red around 200, green 180. You see all those numbers there. They add up to about 950. And so this is the numbering that we know of. But in terms of how many of these were Black Ajah sisters, I don't think, at least I couldn't find anything outside of Robert Jordan's notes that mentions that number. So take this next kind of slide with a grain of salt, but I think these are the numbers that it comes down to. So Rebecca, you want to maybe comment on the distribution of that, and what that number, that's a pretty big number.
So I'm gonna, someone in the wiki did the math on these numbers. They're the same numbers that you have here, basically. But so percentages, because I think, as you can see, the Ajahs themselves are different sizes, and fairly correspondingly, the number of Black sisters within those Ajahs is fairly consistent. So the numbers are percentage-wise almost the same across the board. Like, it's 21.5% of the total Aes Sedai are Black. And the numbers within the Ajahs almost all fall within a very similar number, like 21 to 22%. And the only ones that are slightly different are the red, which is 24% of the red were Black, and for the yellow, 17.5%. So those two fall slightly outside of the rest of the range, which is almost the same. So it's remarkably even across the Ajahs, which was what I thought was interesting about those numbers. And my question on that, I was sort of made me wonder, was that purely random? That it was that even? Because it seems kind of unlikely to me that it would be. And it made me wonder if, in terms of recruitment, if they manipulated that at all. I mean, obviously, I think they're trying to find anyone who's interested, but them being Black, they're perfectly willing to kill people. I mean, would they just kill some potentially interested parties in order to keep their numbers kind of even? Would there be a reason to do that? It just sort of struck me as odd that it was that evenly distributed.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that them influencing, maybe when they identify them as accepted, they might push them towards a specific Ajah, because to maintain control over each one individually, they kind of want to have a base level of power in every single one. So it does make sense that it could be a conscious choice.
I like that, the way you're thinking of it then. I hadn't really thought about that, because you're right. They're identifying them when they're in training. And so okay, we know this one might be interested in joining us, and we need some more in the gray, so let's go like push
Yeah.
this one towards the gray or whatever to try to keep their numbers even within the Ajah. So I like that method of doing it. That actually makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have to kind of go back and look at the recruitment. There were, definitely dark friend, novices and accepted who came into, the tower as dark friends, and then, eventually became Black Ajah. But the way they became Black Ajah was the same as anyone else. So it's interesting that may have happened even before that. But again, it's also, the recruitment is done by the Supreme Council, and other than the head of the Black Ajah, and I'll pull up the Supreme Council and the head of the Black Ajah slide in a second, but only the head knows every sister. Everyone else only knows their heart and one other person. So it would be hard for other than one person to know how many are in each. It's interesting that they may have thought of this, but it's really comes down to that one person being like, "Ooh, we have to somehow do this and figure it out," and it may have worked. Yeah.
So, and this is another thing I wanted to bring up, is that like in terms of like their recruitment strategies, is because again they're watching people who are in training who might be interested. They seem to really like having a Black Ajah as the mistress of novices.
Yes.
Because we know of at least 3 mistresses of novices. However you say that, mistresses of novices, who
Like
were
Johns
Black.
Hopkins.
Yeah. So that seems to be like a really useful position for them to get a member of the Black Ajah into. And it makes sense if you think about how they're recruiting. So like, if you had the head of the Black Ajah who knows like, hey, we need to get, more green sisters, we need to get more, black greens or whatever, then they would just like, go tell their known, send an order to the mistress of novices, be like, hey, encourage some of these people towards the green or whatever.
Right.
It could work. If you have someone in that position, it's much easier to like identify people or like push them in whatever direction you want them to go in. So yeah, that was apparently very useful.
Yeah. All right. Let me actually pull up the one about the Supreme Council. So this. Rebecca, do you think you could read that?
Oh, sure. The Black Ajah's ruling body was called the Supreme Council, composed of 13 sisters, not all known to one another. The top woman knew all the other 12, but the others did not know her name, except those who were of her own heart. The council wore hoods when they met. They seldom met, though it was they personally who carried out the punishments of other Black sisters and of the other council, if necessary, to preserve anonymity. They also handled induction into the Black and frequently handled the questioning of a sister or important personage. Every member of the Supreme Council knew the names of some of the sisters below her, with enough overlap that no one death, or even several, could knock out knowledge of those who belonged. Only the head of the Black Ajah knew the names of all of the sisters in the Ajah. Part of her being raised was for each member of the council to give her the names of all those that she knew.
Yeah, so there's definitely, you're right, as you read that and as you mentioned, there are ways for the head to influence and because they know everyone, so they can be like, well, let me tell that the person in my heart who knows a green to influence more green Black Ajahs, recruitment. Yeah, I think there is. It's actually pretty well thought out. It's I always wondered how did Verin get all those names? How, it's almost like unless she's very high in that hierarchy, she had to have said yes because she took the oaths to a lot of people who are above her. So there must be more hierarchy there where you could at least command people and get more information, not directly because even then you don't know. They only know 3 other sisters.
Yeah, I would love to know, what
Yeah.
her methods were in finding this out. I mean, it would be fascinating to see that whole thing play out.
Yeah. I
I
mean, she
wonder if
had.
we kind of got a hint because of the way that they found the secret Sally Dar sisters. They like went full on Sherlock and like were like, you found there these birds were underneath your horse, but you said you came from the south. So if you can catch them in a lie like that,
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe she did something like that.
Yeah, I wonder too, I mean, I'm sure that had to have been part of it, or just like, she's ultra observant, right? So any little oddity, I'm sure she would just like pick up on that and then do whatever she could to like ferret it out. Like she's getting suspicions and then just confirming them somehow or another. But
Yeah, no, and,
yeah.
and I think the other thing is, I think you mentioned this a little while ago, the Aes Sedai and the White Tower as a whole had, publicly said there is no Black Ajah. But even
Mhm.
within themselves, we know many sisters don't believe it. They don't. There's this secrecy within them that prevents that kind of looking into and trying to weed out black sisters. And we get a lot of Elidas, and this is maybe a bad example because it's Elida, and it's a poor, maybe someone with poor judgment, but where she's thinking from one day to the other where she doesn't believe there's black sisters, and then actually
Mhm.
you can maybe credit her with actually coming up and getting the tower, a Black Ajah plot that happened was kind of maybe initiated by Elida, right? So you could give her a little
Accidentally.
accidentally. Well, but
Yeah,
again, yeah,
yeah.
but again, you could
Ugh.
give her that a little bit. But yeah, I think that the fact that they didn't believe that there could be black sisters obviously helped a lot.
Oh, I think that was the whole thing. I mean, it makes
Yeah.
me honestly wonder, like, if any Amerlin, prior to Egwene, like had just like, firmly believed that like, okay, there is a Black Ajah, and I'm gonna make it my business to make it as hard for them to hide as possible. Like put in just publicly openly talk about it and like put in methods to make it difficult for them to hide, like, or could they have been exposed earlier? I mean, obviously having Verin's list was huge, but I still just wonder, like if there hadn't been that secrecy, if there hadn't been that like complete public denial of it, they just could have, I feel like they could have made it more difficult for the Black Aja to hide and to thrive the way that they did. So
Yeah.
would have been interesting to see.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to kind of touch upon was warders and how having a warder, how that can complicate the situation. So let me pull up what I had on warders here. So this is from a Path of Dagger signing from 1998. It was signing report, and I think this is verbatim. RJ said, if an Aes Sedai becomes Black Ajah, the warder would know instantly that something was up, but wouldn't know exactly what. The Black Ajah has three choices then. Hope the warder is a dark friend, or amenable to being one. Hide the affiliation, or arrange for an accident. This would be painful for the Aes Sedai, but it might become necessary. The process of becoming Black Ajah is evidently quite painful in its own right, and thus probably involves more than just swearing new oaths on the rod. So, again, that could be initially my thought was, yeah, recruiting more Red Sisters makes sense because they don't have warders. But if you look at the
Mhm.
percentages, it doesn't really pan out
No,
like that. And you would
no.
think, or conversely, that there would be not many green Black sisters, because for a green to not have a warder would be very kind of not I'm sure there are greens that don't have warders, but it'd be something that gets pointed out.
I wonder
They'd be
if like
noticeable.
Yeah.
there's anything to, and I don't think we know this, but like, there has to be some greens out there who only have like one warder, right? Like, I mean, because they don't have to have more than one warder. It would be weird if they had none, but if they had one, they might be able to get away with it. And I wonder if there's any like correlation there to greens with one warder. Are they more likely to be black than greens with multiple warders? But I don't think we know. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, we do know that the night or the day the Black Sisters left the White Tower, the Landrin and co.
Mhm.
Some of their warriors were found dead, so they did.
Ah.
Some of them, were killed by them,
Yeah.
which is again, like RJ had said, that's one of the things that they had to do. Although I'm surprised because there is a way of masking the water bond, and we know that
Mhm.
from Elias and her Aes Sedai, because she does that, and he has no idea where she is or if she's even alive, and we know that she didn't give up the bond in his case. So it
Right.
is definitely possible, but maybe at least those Black Ajah sisters didn't know how to do it, so it was easier to just kill those warders.
No loose
Yeah.
ends either, too. Like they couldn't torture
Yeah.
the warder to bother
Yeah.
them in a
Yeah.
way too.
Yeah.
Let's see. I wonder if most sisters become before they had warriors or had lost a warder. So at least in Verin's case, we know that in her case, this is from the companion. She joined the Black Ajah in 929, and under duress when she was caught while studying rumors and tales, and got very close to discovering who some of the members were. She had one warder, Tomas, who was a dark friend. So in her case, her warder was already a dark friend, which is interesting. They don't
Interesting.
go into how these rumors and tales that she was after. Did Tomas maybe lead her down some pathway to get her
Do
recruited?
we know if she had Tomas as a warder when she, like in 929? Like,
Ooh.
did she have him then? Because he's
Mhm.
not that old, is he? I mean, how old is he? I don't know. Because that was like
That's a good
70 years
question.
before.
Yeah, no, maybe someone in the chat knows this. So she was raised, I think, about 875 or so, maybe like 40 plus years before that. And the story is
Damn.
in 990 or something. So there was she was a sister for a while before she got recruited and stumbled upon this. But you're right. I'm not sure
That would make
what that is.
Tomas pretty old, is you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like even if
Yeah.
he was like 20 when he became her, or like at the time, and he was her warder at the time, like he'd be like 90. Like that's
Mhm. Yeah,
pushing
yeah.
it, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so maybe, okay, so she was already Black Ajah, and then he became her warder. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
saying?
I think it's
That makes sense.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, and
does make a lot of
it's
sense. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah,
mhm.
I think I
And maybe she
saw.
was she had caught a lie, and that was sort of what she was investigating, rumors, and she caught someone in that something that she was investigating. And so she was already kind of doing that on accident. Like she was just noticing patterns
I mean,
within like the members.
I could be wrong, but I always thought of it as like her deliberately wanting to find out about the Black Ajah, not because she wanted to join them, but because it's Verin and she wants to know. And that, like, so she was like seeking that out. I don't know, again, that's just how I took it.
Yeah,
She's seeking that out
Mhm.
deliberately, and she found out a bunch of stuff, and then they are thinking, okay, well, maybe she's looking for us because she wants to join us, and that's what they did, right? Give them
Yeah.
a chance. And then she was like, well,
Right.
it's this or I join or I die, so I'm gonna join, even though I
Right.
don't want to join them.
Well,
But I
that's
can find out
interesting,
more.
and that's interesting. You say that because let me pull up my recruitment slide here, because this I think becomes really interesting. So, Kevin, you mind reading this? I think this is.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. It says that girls were watched for suitability from the day they entered the White Tower, although sometimes, though not very often, there was one who was known to be a dark friend before coming to the tower. A novice or accepted found to be acceptable, was not recruited immediately, but was watched further. The watching for recruits continued among Aes Sedai as well. When sufficient signs of suitability were seen, a testing period proceeded before any actual contact. If it was learned that a sister was trying to find the Black Ajah, the watch on her was increased. If she found nothing, the usual tests were arranged. So it sounds like finding them could be one of their secret tests. Like if you find us,
Yeah,
you can get in. You've earned that.
Yeah,
right.
that's like the prerequisite. Like they're going to maybe reach out to the ones that they know that are dark friends, but I still think maybe even those they would want to show some initiative because
Yeah.
they want the resourcefulness. So I think the next part here is going to be a little more interesting, I think. Let me read this one. So if she located a trace, however, she was kidnapped and brought before the Supreme Council, who were hooded as at all their meetings. She was shielded, stripped naked to increase her feelings of vulnerability, bound, and woke with
Of
a
course,
knife to
RJ.
eat.
Sorry.
Yes, of course. And woke with a knife to each side of her throat and a mirror placed so that she could watch her life's blood drain into a bowl should the cuts be made. She was then asked one question. Did she wish to join the Black Ajah? I'm making a comment here. Right now, she's still bound by the three oaths. So an answer of no, and the cuts were not made. Instead, she was put to the question with the use of the power, drained of whatever she had learned about the Ajah and who she might have passed it to, then killed either with the power or she could have seemed to have died naturally or through an apparent accident. If the answer was yes, the oath road was placed into her hands and she was made to abjure the three oaths, a particularly painful process, and then immediately following the Black Ajah's own three oaths were administered. All candidates were brought in the same way, even those who were known dark friends. Oops. There's Kevin again there. All right, yeah, but so when you have the knives at your throat, you are still bound by the. So Verin in that position said yes because she did want to join the Black Ajah.
She wanted
right?
to, yeah.
Well, and I think again, it's all like what's in her head.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Does she want to be a dark friend? No, technically, but at the same time, if her choice is like, well, on the one hand, I can find out more about the Black Ajah, and on the other hand, I can die.
I want to be in the Black Ajah. Yeah.
She
Mhm.
found a way
Yeah.
in her mind where it was like, yes, I do.
Yeah. No, I think that I think she may have known that going into it too. She knew that her life would have been at risk at some point throughout that process. So in her mind,
Which also, I mean, they have knives to your throat. It's not hard to figure it out at that
right,
point.
right. Well, definitely by that point, but I think even before that,
point, yeah.
she may have. I don't know how much she knew about whether the oath rod was going to be involved and things like that. But I think
Yeah.
it would have been interesting if we ever got
But you
to
could
see.
be right because
yeah.
she at least might have found out a bunch of stuff before she was at that point, and
Right.
I would believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say again. I think it's very hard. It's possible, but probably hard to stumble upon it. A Black Ajah meeting or sorts with where they would consider you to become a Black Ajah sister. So Verin must have done some of the right stuff for them to have been like, hey, I think you could become a Black sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
and then what happens after, right? Like they put you in the Black Ajah, but then they test you further, right? They
Right, yeah.
make you prove yourself
Yeah,
after.
exactly.
So Verin had to have done
Yep.
some shady stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that's this. So once and Rebecca, maybe you can take a crack
Sure.
at this one. Yeah.
Once the oaths were taken, a sister was a member of the Ajah, but she was still probationary in a sense. She had sworn to obey orders, but she was told that she would be tested and failure would be punished, perhaps with death, perhaps with worse. The tests consisted of orders, delivered anonymously, of course, which commanded her to do things which might have exposed her to danger or to ridicule or to an imposed penance. How she carried out those orders was observed closely. None of the tasks were vital, of course. They were assigned simply for testing purposes. Many of a Black sister's chances at advancement were determined in that first year of testing. So, I mean, if someone said yes and then was like unwilling to do the things they were asking her to do, she'd probably end up dead.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it would become quite clear. And again, this is where I think what Verin did was even more right. Like she did it for like 80 plus years, where she was like, okay, I'm just going to figure everything out and not be killed in the process. So I think it just adds to how cool that was, I guess, And so I'm going to end this poll because I asked I asked if Verin is the best Black Ajah sister, and the options were yes, and or Verin is the best any Ajah sister. It's pretty split. I
That's
guess
pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I guess then people were like, well, Nynaeve's in there and Moraine's there, and so that's what it is. But yeah, no, Verin, to me at least, is the best Aes Sedai. I mean, Egwene says it herself, right? You have a heart or soul of pure white, or
I think her soul.
yeah. So, yeah, I think Verin was instrumental. I wish we could have gotten to know more about the way she went about getting into the Black Ajah, and then getting that book to Egwene, because it's also like she was writing the book, but it was at no point going to be like, I'm going to give this book to anyone else. Like that thought can't enter your mind, right? Because that's giving up, the secret. So I think it took a lot of, she just was brown. I think that's at the end of the day, she was more brown than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Any other things that you want to jump into? I was going to kind of talk about some of the other things I had here. Let me look. So I think what we just kind of talked about, what they had been up to, but this I thought was pretty big. So this was from the companion, and this is the violence. So what was known as the pogrom that was done by the Aes Sedai, and really the Black Ajah behind, once they found out, a lot of this is from New Spring, that the Dragon Reborn had been born. They didn't know when. So they kind of went around killing men and boys. And this specifically talks about the Black Ajah killing 30 to 50 senior Aes Sedai who might have known that the dragon had been reborn. So that's, if we, think of, 30 to 50 senior Aes Sedai, that's very effective. I mean, that's a huge number.
Yeah.
And incredible that
It's a
Swan
lot
and
of
Moraine
dead
were able to sneak
people.
away.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that again, it speaks to how oblivious the rest of the Aes Sedai were, right? They're like, oh, that person died in their sleep. Oops, like, like.
But that's
just...
again, like going back to like the secrecy and denial, like how they were able to get away with killing that many people in a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously all the men and the boys, which is even a huger number, and then that number of Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
And I mean, people knew it was happening, but like no one was out there being like, this is the Black Ajah,
Right.
like, and it's all the secrecy and denial that allowed that to happen. And
they all died of natural causes. Yeah.
Like Moraine and Swan like knew that that's what was, well, they like knew at least some of that, right? They knew what was happening to some degree, but they didn't really do anything about it specifically.
Yeah, and you mentioned the number of boys and men that were killed. I actually didn't put that on a slide, but the official Tower records say I think 7 or 8 were killed, and then there's secret, unofficial, which said like 15, and then there were the I think the 13 depositor, like the real records said 1,000 to 2,000 men, boys were killed over a period of like 15 years, like a really small number of years. And then it's both in the notes and makes it way into the companion that the true number is probably like 5-fold that. So like around about 10,000 men and or boys were killed because they could have been channeling. I mean, that is, it's just crazy to think that had been going on. And again, well, I mean, it was partly facilitated by the Reds, and there was a lot of backlash that happened. But it's just the Black Ajah were very effective if they wanted to do something.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, which is interesting because individually, I feel like you can point to a lot of them and go like, well, like, what did these people do? Like, you know, some of them individually don't seem like they're that effective. Or, you know, there's other thing in the companion, they sort of talk about like the role of the Black Ajah within like the larger like dark friend, you know, world, and how like they tried multiple times to like establish themselves as having like authority specifically over non-channeler dark friends, and every time they failed, like in the last time kind of spectacularly, and ended up sort of like diminishing themselves in the process. So, and that was like a huge frustration to them. So in some ways, like they seem like they're not that effective, you know, like at least in that regard. Or just again, individually, you might look at them and go, you know, what are these people really doing? But as a whole, as an organization, they did do some pretty big things, and that's certainly one of them.
Yeah. We had this comment by Village Mattress. Is great topic tonight. Out of curiosity, is this a live call and talk show? Yes, it is a live call and talk show. And I just put the number on there. It's 1313 TalkWatt. That's 313-825-5968. So yeah, call in and you know, join our discussion about you know, why the Black Ajah was so effective, but also seemingly, you know, that it easily could have been found out if the Aes Sedai were like not, you know, were mildly, you know, inquisitive about it.
Yeah, or like just like not so committed to like complete denial of it, right? Just talk about it openly, like make it a little bit hard to like do some of the things that they were doing. But
the Wheel of Time, you know, communication is not a strong suit for the character. So yeah, it's kind of.
I mean, I think it was definitely like deliberate, and it's a big theme. So I get why it is the way it is. But
yeah, this comment by Sean Longing that they killed Tamra, the Amerlin, around the time with when Moraine. So this what happened in New Spring, and that led to punishment by Ishii. So it was actually that, and the fact that Shamil found out that they had killed, you know, 1,000+ men who could channel, and some, you know, that could have been the Dragon Reborn. So there was this big kind of upheaval or change that happened. So actually, let me put that up. I think actually no. So this, you know, this question about an Amerlin, you know, back in with Maria in 2013 at JordanCon, Therese asked, was there ever a Black Amerlin? And Maria said, that's not the way the Black like to work usually. Maria said, yeah, I'm thinking not, but I don't know that. So it's, you know, kind of goes with, well, they don't need to have the Amerlin be, you know, a Black Ajah member. They can get away. Yeah.
I would argue they might actively not
want
her to be, because I mean, and we don't have too much to go on for that, but just looking at the example of Elaida and Alviarin, like Alviarin became allied with Elaida before she was the Amerlin, and she would have known that Elaida was not Black. And my thinking is, if Alviarin had wanted to, she might have been able to maneuver herself into the Amerlin seat, but she would have chosen not to do that, and would rather have someone like Elaida in that role who she could manipulate. And this goes back to something I was talking about before about, you know, feeling like that was, you know, the Black Ajah and their involvement in the Tower schism was very significant. And then I think it was Andrew Berenson in the chat was like sort of saying, oh, well, you know, that wasn't really the Black Ajah. And, you know, to me, I think what they did there is, I mean, you know, Alviarin was pulling all kinds of, you know, strings, getting Elaida to do things, you know, exaggerating her worst qualities, encouraging her worst impulses. And, you know, so there was certainly some involvement there. But then also, you know, maybe just as importantly, like after Elaida had, you know, made the move and Suan was deposed, you have the split, right? The Aes Sedai who aren't going to go along with that, who are going to, like, you know, leave the tower. And basically the whole formation of a rebel, White Tower and the two competing towers and two competing Amerlins, and everything that Elida did to encourage that. I mean, that behind all of that there's the Black Ajah like pulling strings and making sure that those divisions were exaggerated as much as possible. So I think that was huge, and I definitely think that was a major success of theirs, in their goal of undermining the White Tower. Like, I think that probably did the most to undermine the White Tower, and I definitely think the Black Ajah had a lot to do with that. And Elida was a useful idiot, and they just encouraged her worst impulses and fanned every flame of division that they could find.
No, I agree. There's a couple of comments from Alex in the chat. One, I'm going to put up here, that the idea that they could be Dark Friends would only have made things worse. They had to proclaim that there are no Dark Friends in their midst. And I agree with that, that they had to like publicly deny that. But I think there's so many things that the Aes Sedai do that they publicly don't tell anyone. So they could have still investigated and done better at trying to figure out
within the tower, right?
Yes,
like, maybe you're not going to go out and publicly say, yes, there are Dark Friends in the tower. Like, you don't do that's not good PR. But like within the tower, you could talk about it openly and do everything you can to root it out. I mean, those two things are possible.
I think we have Team Useful Idiot.
A new hashtag.
Yes, I think that is definitely. So in talking about Black Ajah, and a quick kind of aside, we have Liandrin in the show. Is there a favorite other than obviously Verin, Black Ajah, character that you hope makes it to season 2? Or, if they were to merge people, who should they merge, and how they can do that? Kevin, maybe, do you have anyone that comes to mind? There's like, okay, they should definitely do that. And I think the answer most people don't like to hear is Elida getting merged and things like that. But yeah, what do you think?
Oh,
Yeah. I think most people are firmly against, because that's part of what makes her so dynamic, is that she thinks she's doing the right thing the whole time. So it probably would be a little bit of a misstep, and it would have to be pulled off very convincingly otherwise to justify that kind of change. But I think that it's almost a given. There has to be a point where they include Chesmal Emry, just because that joke about her, like with you can't name. Yeah, you can't not have her in the show at some point. So I think that she could very well be in the group that runs away. Those 13 that leave at some point has to be like at least
that's
considered.
A poll. So who do you want to see in season 2 from the Black Ajah? Chesmal Emry. All right. Who else?
Yeah, Chesmal Emry. No, I think that's definitely a good point. And the other thing I think that I like, it's always vaguely interesting about some of the yellow yellow blacks, because it's like a weird like dichotomy, and it's so that makes her a little bit interesting. But yeah, I don't know, I mean, at this point, I like Liandrin was like actually not one of my favorites in the books, like as a character. I thought she was kind of bland and whatever, but very different in the show now. Kate Fleetwood is the best. So yeah, like give it all to Liandrin as far as I'm concerned. As long as they don't make her Elida, like you can merge her with any other Black sister you want, and I'm going to be totally fine with it.
Just definitely agree.
And there isn't really, I mean, I feel like Alviarin is sort of a must at some point. But beyond that, I mean, like, I think you have to have Verin, you have to have Alviarin, you have to have, Liandrin can do whatever she wants, but like, there aren't too many. I feel like they aren't a lot of like Black Ajah characters that are really iconic as characters in the books.
Well, I mean, I think the one that I was going to add to that, so Chesmal Emry, Alviarin, and I think the one, and it's not that I forget her too, Sheriam. And how exactly? I always forget because she's such she's Mistress of Novices. She's she has such a role in this after the split. So I think I'm going to do those 3 as our poll.
Yeah, but Sheriam is a definite. Yeah.
So it's interesting though. We've been to the tower, but we didn't see the Mistress of Novices. You would hope in the second season now, with 2 novices that at least that we know are going to be a focus in the tower, that there is interaction with a Mistress of Novices. And so I think at least, given that we know a lot of what happens in book 2 is Leandrin being exposed as Black Ajah, I hope, that'll probably happen next season. Adding another like Alviaran type person in the tower might not happen, but I think Sheriam might be a great kind of character to introduce, that if they continue to keep her, as part of that, comes to be later on be, people are putting Galena. I think again, she does become
she could be merged with Leandrin pretty easily, right?
But that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Is that the Galena role could be taken over by Leandrin very easily if they don't want to introduce like a new character and a new actress. So that's where again I feel like Leandrin can absorb any other red black that they feel like doing.
Yeah. All right. So that was a good fun aside, I think. Let me see, what else do I have here? Yeah, I think this I thought was just interesting in terms of, when we get to hear about the Black Ajah in the book. So this is the Eye of the World, chapter 43. 2,000, this is Balsamon speaking, 2,000 years ago, I took my trawls across the world, and even among Aes Sedai, I found those who knew despair, who knew the world could not stand before Shaitan. For 2,000 years, the Black Ajah has dwelt among the others, unseen in the shadows, perhaps even those who claim to help you. So even, in the first book, the Black Ajah was mentioned. It was mentioned they could be, Aes Sedai that are helping you. So I actually didn't remember that until I, went back and saw this quote as I was looking. There's one mention, I think, in one dream of Tom, of Rand's, and Tom is in it, and Tom mentions beware of the Black Ajah. I don't remember I didn't actually put that one in, but I think there's another mention of the Black Ajah in the Eye of the World, at least. Other than, quite clearly that's what the Black Ajah is. Yeah. It's, Aes Sedai, Dark Friends. So I think we knew even then, and then Verin's introduced, and it's like, oh, okay, someone's helping you who could be a Dark Friend.
Yeah, though I think it's very clear that when Ishi's saying that in the first book, he's like, oh yeah, Moraine might be a Dark Friend.
Could be.
Yeah. Do you think, again, this is going back to the show, do you think they might make someone like Alana a Dark Friend?
Oof. No,
that'd be interesting. It'd be tricky. That'd be tricky to pull off, but
I mean, okay, so I do kind of hope they play around with some things like that, like don't necessarily have all the same names, be Dark Friends or not be Dark Friends. Like I would not mind them changing things up just for audience still having some mystery, even people who've read the books. And I really hope they change some things, like, I mean, if they have like one of the Forsaken hiding in the White Tower, for instance, whether it's Masana or they give her a different name or whatever, because they're merging, I kind of hope she's hiding as like a different Aes Sedai than the one it is in the book, because why not?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it could
absolutely.
be anybody. So make it a different mystery. I do hope for that. But with someone like Alana, personally, I would say no. Given the number of other things that she has to do, it just complicates things way too much if she is a Dark Friend, and I think she should not be.
Yeah.
But others, sure. I mean, I could be open to somebody else being a Dark Friend. I don't really know who. No one's springing to mind, but we haven't met that many like Aes Sedai in the show yet, so probably we don't have a candidate yet. But there could be some.
Yeah, no.
I will admit, I suspected her when she did her bonding, though. I was like, this is it. This is the moment. This is when it's happening.
That's true, right? Because a Black sister might also want to do that. Yeah. It's a definitely could be a reason. So, yeah.
All right. We have one caller waiting. Let me bring them in and see what they have to say. All right. Hey, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. Who's this?
Hi, Innkeeper. This is Frenzy.
Hey, Frenzy. Thanks for calling in. So, what do you think of the poll that's up? Who do you want to see in season 2 from the Black? And what other comments do you have?
Oh, I'm loving this topic. By the way, the intrigue is always of interest, and I'm curious to see how it will play out in the show, because they seem to have skipped a lot of the "don't trust any Aes Sedai" that was in the books they kind of left that out in the show. I voted for Alviarin in the current poll because
Okay.
I think she is she's just the master manipulator that gets things done, and was highly effective in her role of, you know, splitting the tower, sowing chaos, keeping the Aes Sedai flat-footed and unable to respond to what the Shadow was setting up. You know, basically taking out the Light's most powerful weapon, in theory, the Light's most powerful weapon, what everybody assumed would be the Light's most powerful weapon. And she basically gutted them for a good long time. So it'd be interesting to see her in the show and how that plays out.
Yeah, no, I think that is a great potential kind of role. I do see that. I'm actually going to end this poll because let's see what everyone else is saying, and I think it's I'm not surprised. Yeah, Shariam is about 68% say Shariam, just because I think that from a reveal standpoint and how it happened, I thought the arc is really good. But you're right, what Alviarin does behind the scenes and all of that is very, very, it from a plot standpoint is very important.
And it depends too, like how much they're gonna start the tower coup plot in season 2, because I do feel like Alviarin should be like there and involved whenever they're doing that. So if they're starting that with any significance in season 2, then it could make sense to have her. And if they're putting that off more towards season 3, then maybe they could wait on her. But
I guess we get to wait and see.
Yeah. What else? Did you have anything to kind of add to our kind of deep dive? Any topic that you wanted to bring up, or anything you wanted to go back to that we talked about already?
I just really deep dive, going very esoteric here.
Yeah.
We know that the Black Ajah were, Ishmael's tool, and we know that it was Ishmael who sent Hawkwing's armies across the ocean, and now they are coming back with the Seanchan. Are we going to see a connection between the Black Ajah and the Seanchan coming back in the show? Are they going to conflate the two?
I mean, I
don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, to some extent, the fact that the High Lady Suroth is or was a big part of the return, that that actually ended up happening in the books. But are you saying that all of Seanchan are dark friends? Is that? I mean, I think most people would be okay with that, but
no, there's a difference between just being evil or being bad and being a sworn to the shadow.
Yeah. No.
And they are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I think
with our favorite Aes Sedai.
They could play up that angle, like if they have a Suroth character in the show, which kind of seems like likely, and if they make it clear that she's a dark friend, they could make some angle there if they wanted to.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting because if you think about it, there are going to be multiple not dark friend forces that are evil in season 2, right? So the Seanchan, the White Cloaks, and the Aiel show up, but they're not hopefully not shown to be dark, like evil, and actually part of at least in the show that'll be a new element. I think that is going to end up at Falma, but I think you're right. It'll be interesting to see how all of Seanchan is portrayed like that. Yeah. Cool. Mary, anything else that you want to talk to? Or I do have a few other things that I wanted to bring up, but hey, thanks for calling in.
Oh, well, thanks for having me in, Innkeeper. And Kevin, Rebecca, you guys are doing awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for calling.
All right, thanks.
All right, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Wow, they really do it live just like that.
All right, let me see. I had a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. Let's see. And I think this is kind of what Mary mentioned, but Ishmael claimed to have founded created the Black Ajah during the Trolloc Wars at the very beginning of the conflict when he was spun out and began the wars. The Black Ajah claimed to have existed since the Age of Legends, and so they told its new sisters. But Ishmael told the truth, however. There were certainly sisters who would have been black had the Ajah existed during the period between the Breaking and the Trolloc Wars, and some of them did serve and worship the Dark One. So it is, clearly the fact that they became a group of dark friends together was Ishmael was doing, and it's not unrealistic to think that he planted some seeds in the people who went over to Seanchan to eventually. We don't really know why he did that, but the fact that he did want people over there that may be serving him.
And we also know another Forsaken was with the Seanchan too.
Right,
so
exactly.
Not just Ishmael.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, the Randland continent, well, not just the continent. I mean, there are other Shara, and there's Forsaken and Shara. So, it's just interesting how
they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Let's see. There's one.
You have to wonder too with the timing of it all, because that's around the time I think it was after the Hawkwind siege when they did the oaths for the first time for the Aes Sedai. That's when they first swore their first oaths. So since Ishmael was probably spun out, or the seals weakened enough for him to directly influence things, if he was able to say that's an oath rod, and that was he was able to identify what it was as far as the ter'angreal was concerned, and then translate that into, let's handicap the regular Aes Sedai, and now I can create an organized center of power within the Dark Friend ones, actually put them under oath as well, kind of serve a double purpose in that sense. So maybe they found one, maybe he just was able to say that is one, he looked at their stories and said, look, you've been holding on to this the whole time, and it just kind of worked in his favor that way.
Or somehow putting the idea even in Hawkwing's mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's one question I think that I asked myself. You're an Aes Sedai, you're not a Dark Friend, but you're interested in becoming Black Ajah. Why would you want to become Black Ajah in that instance? So I'm going to put up this slide. Maybe Kevin, you can read this, and then we can talk about it.
Sure. The Black Ajah had some contact with the organized cells of Dark Friends in various nations, though they themselves were not part of the rather loose Dark Friend organization. It was a matter of some irritation to the sisters of the Black Ajah, especially those on the Supreme Council, that they had no control over these other Dark Friend groups, and indeed ranked only equally with the men and women in these groups. At various times over the centuries, Black sisters attempted to seize control of all Dark Friends, and at various points they actually came close. But the other groups fought back fiercely, and a good many Black sisters died of poison or a knife in the back, and the attempts all failed. The last, some hundreds of years ago, was particularly humiliating for the Black sisters, as their representatives, including at least some of the Supreme Council, were forced to publicly, within the meeting, renounce any claims to command, to acknowledge that they were only the equals of the others, and to accept a reduction in their votes from 5 to 1.
So if I'm not even going to be I can channel and now have to be under other Dark Friends, why would I want to be in the Black Ajah? I mean, I can just be an Aes Sedai who's, relatively powerful. I mean, yeah, maybe you would imagine it would only be the weak Aes Sedai who want more power or something like that. But if you're, strong in the power, I mean, again, you want more power. That's probably what it is. But it's just interesting that if you don't, yeah.
I was thinking about that too, and I think the one thing that could be dangled for potential Black Ajah as, maybe an incentive here is, well, we're going to take away these 3 oaths. So if you were an Aes Sedai who felt that you were limited by not being able to lie, not being able to use the one power as a weapon. I mean, obviously, you're getting people who are have
shady.
those dark impulses in them, right? They maybe they're not a Dark Friend, but they have those dark impulses. And so for someone who might feel I don't want to have that restriction on me, that could be a carrot that could be dangled for them. You're not going to have these oaths hanging over you anymore. I don't know. Just a thought.
That makes sense.
I mean, Norman Gardenson votes, so Dark Friends have a democracy. So that, yeah, I mean, and there's, a lot of, the reasoning here. Iris says, so do these cookies come with dental care? So, what is that? What is that carrot? You could die. There's so many things. It's so dangerous. And one thing I may have. This could have, one thing I thought of, it doesn't apply. So if the Black Ajah knew that removing the oaths takes away the age restriction, and well, you would live longer. So,
except
but you take 3,
other 3.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
Happen.
So it doesn't. But that could have been like, well, this is the reason you should be Black Ajah. You have 1 or 2 oaths, not 3, and you live 200 years longer. Or alternatively, it's like, well, you're gonna, the Dark One's gonna take over. You're gonna get immortality because of that. So that's what they're going for, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe all the usual like inducements to dark friendery like could apply, but I mean, it is tough because I feel like in general, if you're just looking at it from that like the standpoint of like what dark friends deal with, right? Like where they could just be like killed for like the smallest mistake that they make, like that's it's I think it's hard for a lot of people to really wrap your mind around like wanting to do that, but I do wonder, how many of them do fall into like the Ishmael category? Like he himself is claiming that the ones he's recruiting are the ones who have despair, like he does, right? Despair that you cannot go up against the Dark One. So, how many of them fall into that category versus someone like Leandrin, obviously, like she was already a Dark Friend. So like she wants to like wield power over others, period, right? Like that seems to be her deal. So how many are the despair versus the power hungry?
Right. I think I saw someone say this. I think Andrew said this. Shirin became Black Ajah to advance in Aes Sedai politics. So I mean, again, to me that doesn't sound as a good enough reason. But I mean, I'm not Shirin who's like stuck in a mid-tier kind of, she needs to do how many more years, publish so many papers to get into, become a full, professor or whatever. And she's like, screw this. I'm just going to become a,
They're going to make me mistress of novices because they want to have a black sister
exactly.
in there.
Yeah. So it's like,
apparently that's, great.
Yeah.
And like, it's been going on for like thousands of years. Is he really going to come back while you're alive? Like, it's like almost like free money. It's like, he's not coming back.
Yeah. I mean, you could go look at it that way too, I guess. It's just like, to me, it's always like, how do you overcome the fact that like, well, if you mess up even a tiny bit, they're just going to kill you. So I don't really know how
that wasn't in the pamphlet then, they left that out of the pamphlet, and they left out the part about having to swear new oaths. That was left out too. And all the other negatives, they would have been.
Yeah, they just didn't mention that. And then it's too late.
I think there was a show that there was a BARSIDE chat episode which talked about why would anyone want to be a Dark Friend, and I thought why would anyone want to be Black Ajah? I think there might be more reasons because you could really be more powerful, but the more I read about what you have to go through to get in and like the secret, like all of that, you probably don't know that going into it, and maybe that's why. But I can easily be like getting into it and be like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for,
I'm guessing that most of them might have that thought, right? Of like the ones who are like, oh yeah, this sounds great. Let me find out about this. Let me try and like find my way. And then they're like brought in and they're like, well, at this point I have to say yes. And then once they say yes, they're like, instant regret.
You're in too deep.
Yeah, Rajesh is like, eternal fire is in the terms and conditions. No one reads it. I mean,
even Aes Sedai don't read it.
Yeah, I mean, did Ishmael have like the fiery red, the fiery eyes when he first came out and made the Black Ajah? Maybe he didn't. So they're like, hey, this guy looks like he's fine. He's fine.
He's charismatic.
Yeah. Maybe he was like Moradin back then. He was just level-headed and everything. Let me see if there's any other that anything else that's coming to your mind? I think this was interesting. And I think we know this, but discipline in the Black Ajah was harsh and unforgiving. So a Black sister knew she would be punished severely for the smallest transgression, slip or failure, with no excuses or reasons accepted, and that the severity increased as the transgression did. The top penalty, death, was not unknown. She would probably be found dead in her bed or from some sort of accident. And I love this part. I mean, I don't, but it's the fact that it's in there. But the fact was that she would have been given plenty of time to scream before she died. So, yes, you would be found, seemingly dead of natural causes, but that's not what happened, and you were very likely tortured. And so kind of what we spoke about. There is maybe some carrots, but the stick is very real. And we talk about how many 30 to 50 senior sisters they killed. We have no idea how many they've killed with recruitment over the years, and the ones they have recruited. All right, I think we're coming up to 45 minutes past the hour in terms of our second hour. Any other thoughts before we kind of get to the end here? Anything else?
I had
that you
one on
wanted
the
to mention?
vileness, but if Rebecca, if you had one, you're welcome to go
No,
first.
go ahead. Nothing big. I think we covered
All
a
right.
lot.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about it, it kind of got me thinking. Obviously, we know of some, like we know of Tom's nephew who was a victim of this, but we don't really get a lot of the names. And if there's over 10,000, there's got to be a significant number that were maybe name dropped. And the one that came to mind for me was, I've always held on to that theory that there was this lord in the area like Almouth Plain and all that area who is like uniting them, and that's where how Swan and Gareth Bryn first met for the first time, was because of that guy. And he was supposedly very lucky, and I had always held on to the thought that he was possibly Verin, and that's how Swan knew that she could see Verin. But if he was that lucky, that arrow probably could have been from one of the Black Ajah, just worried that he was potentially the Dragon Reborn, starting to gain power and starting to unite that area near the two rivers, coincidentally enough. But
I mean, that totally fits. I never thought about that, but I'd buy that 100%.
Yeah, I mean the numbering is just so that's
massive,
a huge number, right? I mean, you would think like anyone who did anything kind of good or lucky ends up dead. Like no one saw that, it's just like there's no good policing, no one out there being like profiling, being like, hey, what's happening here?
No, yeah.
Clearly, or clearly they were that good, people like died natural causes, like everything like came back. The autopsy report showed nothing, so they're like, okay, let's move on.
All right.
Yeah. I think that might be it. Let me just quickly look at my list here, and I think we went over pretty much everything here. Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit about communication, but I think we kind of covered that. The way they communicated was, just within their hearts, and it would go down from one heart to the other until it got to the top of the Supreme Council, and then it would trickle down. So it would be fairly slow in how that might happen, but then they had these certain ways of knowing each other in public. They hardly use those hand signals. And then maybe in terms of there's certain things they could put up in certain areas within the White Tower. If they see that, they know we got to get out of here. I think they talk about that, and that's one way of escaping and signaling from a broad perspective. So they had all these secret kind of things that they had in place for communication, for sure. All right, cool. Let me try to see if I can give away a mug tonight.
Ooh.
So, Kevin, are you working on a parody for What Idol?
I am. I've narrowed it down. The other day I put a poll where I said the 3 poll options were tweeter, of and Chaos. Team of was pretty strong to start out, but Team Chaos did win in the end.
Okay.
I think with like 55%. So they randomly helped me decide between three choices I was kind of stuck between. So I started writing that after the poll closed. And lyrics are, I think I finished lyrics last night. So now I've just kind of got to work on the other parts of it.
Right.
Because again, there's a lot that goes into it. The other people, they've set the bar really high, which is awesome because
Yeah.
I didn't know that they could all do that stuff, which is fantastic.
All right, I'm gonna try this. This is something that I'm trying, and let's see if it works. So it's what we normally do. We do exclamation point raffle.
Ooh.
But let me make sure they're all here. So if you put exclamation point raffle, let's see if that works. Let's give that a couple of minutes. Yeah, so yeah, I am starting to see it show up, so it should work. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's give that what about you, Rebecca? Are you working?
I honestly, this is been my pattern for the past couple of years. Like, I'll have an idea like shortly after like one round of it, and then I'll like write the lyrics. So I've had one written, like lyrics written for like quite a while, but now I need to actually like record it and put the whole thing together and whatnot. So I could have done that anytime, but did I? No, I did not. So yes, I do have an idea, and it's in progress.
All right, that's awesome. That's great.
But I'm just looking forward to it. Like I mean, it's just such a blast to like even like be in the audience and all that. So.
All right, so the raffle is in progress. So if you do exclamation point raffle, it should start to work. I don't think I had like a way of the raffle has started. I kind of put it in myself, and hopefully this works. I do see a lot of people who have done it, so I think people might have a good.
They're raffling.
Yeah, they're raffling. I think there might be a good chance that this is a lucky night that you might win a Dusty Wool mug. Cool. Yeah, no, I think Watt Idol is awesome. I that's just not how I'm creative. So it's I thought of it a lot, and it's just like I felt like I could write it at least, and I couldn't even do that. So I was like, if I can't write it, like the other stuff is like after that. So I was like, well, I'll just enjoy maybe being on the other side. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it's super fun just to like listen to them all and vote and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think it's a blast. So.
All right, I'm just gonna give another 10 seconds, and we'll see who is the lucky Black Ajah winner tonight. All right.
You could always be part of an ensemble. Maybe get the band back together.
Yeah, I mean, some people did do like parodies with like lots of people involved and stuff like that. Yeah, and once in a while, like I'll like come up with like some idea where like it has to be like a duet or something, and I'm like, all right, just like calm down, like don't make this crazier for yourself than it already has to be.
Yeah, the organization part does hinder the super group idea.
It's hard enough for me to just like deal with my own stuff.
Yeah,
I don't want to try to collaborate with somebody, so I'm just gonna not do that.
I don't know if the winner showed up.
It looks like Nightbot showed Dale Harris as the winner.
All right, there you go. Great. So congratulations, Dale Harris.
Great job, Dale.
Yeah, reach out to us on any social media, Discord, Twitter. You can ask any of the mods how to get in touch, and congratulations. All right.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you both for joining me tonight. We made it past some bubbles of evil, and went over some news. So did some Black Ajah deep dive. I think this I had the most fun just researching. So it's the small things, when you put together stuff and you're like, whoa, I don't remember this at all. Some of this stuff I didn't even know, like those numbers when I was looking up, I was like, that's just crazy. So I think the research and the deep dive part is so fun. But yeah, thank you everyone for being here. We did announce a few shows that are coming up. We're going to continue to do some deep dives, but there's the next time we're live in a couple of weeks is going to be Winter's Heart with Danny and Brett, and that'll be a lot of fun. But let's get to the end here. Okay, I want to make sure this is good. And all right, okay. So
hey, Nas, where can people find you?
Find me. I think the best way to find me is at the Dusty Wheel. I mean, I think if you want to get in touch with me, I'm in the Discord. I am. If you hit up the Dusty Wheel on Twitter, I should be able to respond to you there too. So I do have my own Twitter handle, and I can share that in the Discord as well. But yeah, thanks Kevin. All right. Awesome. So as we say around here, good night from the Dusty Wheel, and smash the black.
Welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. You went right to kill it. Look at you. You're all ready. You're just done. I mean, this is like
turned out really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that, and you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the two rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So
Just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm not white.
I see Lukomi as something along the lines of a Shida Haran analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge. Yay!
Like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden,
this is not just a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi
and
elements.
Just a moment ago, Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guest in here with me, and
probably I would say put in 70-80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,